Hi, I'm Adam.
Hi, I'm Denise.
Hi, Morgana.
Hi, I'm Shauna.
I'm Zach.
Suffrage, a term not heard in today's society, but in the 19th century, it was a movement for the rights of women to vote, especially in politics. A prolonged 52-year battle took place to amend the Constitution so that white women could have the right to vote. It took another 40 years for other races of women to have that right. The 19th century was also known as the woman's century because of the dramatic changes that took place in reference to statuses. Feminism is still an ongoing issue this day and age, but has taken steps in the right direction over the past few centuries. Quote, daily life for women in the early 1800s was that of many obligations and few choices, unquote. Women's lives were controlled first by their fathers, and when they were to be married, their lives would be dictated by their husbands. In other words, women's conditions at this time could be compared to slavery. Charlotte Perkins Gilliams wrote, quote, she who could best please her lord was the favorite slave or favorite wife, and she obtained the best economic conditions, unquote. A woman had no entitlement to her inheritance or her own body. She was simply referred to as her husband's property. If a woman was to run away and leave her husband, she could be captured and punished by law. Divorces were rare and had strong social and religious consequences. Gilman also stated that, quote, mother serves her child's economic advantage by preparing her for the market, unquote. In other words, mothers taught their daughters the domestic art of cooking, cleaning, and other household chores to make them more desirable. These women were also placed in different social classes on the hierarchy scale. During the 19th century, England's social classes were divided into three main classes that each had subclasses. The first class would be the aristocrats, which were the highest form of authority and social status. Aristocrats were not involved in any manual labor, and they consisted of the royal family, spiritual lords, temporal lords, and great officers of the state. Baronets, knights, and country gentlemen were three classes of the great officers of the state. The middle class would make up the majority of England's population, and once again, this class would be subdivided into two classes, upper middle class and lower middle class. Upper middle class still enjoyed a higher social status, and they were comprised of people at the administrative level, such as doctors, lawyers, large-scale business owners, and clergymen. The lower middle class were a step down from the upper middle class, and they consisted of small-scale business owners, merchants, and civil servants. The lowest social class in the 19th century of England was the lower class, which was subcategorized into two groups, the working class and the poor. While the working class were the laborers of the country and performed the lowest form of employment, the poor lived off charity because they were unable to work. Although there were different classes and statuses, women still had little rights, no matter what class they were in. Women of the upper and middle class usually stayed at home and ran the day-to-day operation of the household. They also cared for and raised their children. In Gilman's economic interpretation of the role of women at the turn of the century, she states, quote, that women's work roles were confined to the level of immediate bodily service, to the making of clothes and the preparing of food for individuals, unquote. Because these were more traditional roles that a woman was expected to do. In the lower class of society, women worked outside the home as underpaid servants or laborers in factories and mills. As we move forward into the new millennium, there are still many obstacles and issues that remain involving the rights of women. While women are now striving in the workforce, there are still issues with inequality. Charlotte Bunch writes, quote, women's rights advocates need to show how socioeconomic rights are central to the achievement of women's rights. Women fighting for recognition of their human rights advocate a holistic understanding of human rights as indivisible and interconnected. Socioeconomic and political civil rights should not be seen as competitive, but as equally important needs that must be sought together, not one before the other. Women's rights and roles have come a long way since the 19th century. They have organized groups fight government regarding laws and their roles in society today. Although we still have our three distinct classes of upper, middle, and lower, people are not held back, and if they want to better themselves, they can achieve a higher class in society. All women now have the right to vote and are no longer puppets of their father or husbands. They are encouraged to get an education and set high goals for themselves. Women are no longer punished for leaving their husbands, and if they do, in most cases now in society, they receive full custody of their children. With this great achievement for women's rights in most countries, some countries are still behind the times. That is why we all need to be educated in this issue so that everyone can enjoy the freedom of equality. Without equality, we cannot have a thriving society. There will always be setbacks.